So I got a brand new ring and pinion gear from Summit Racing. It's like 150 bucks. Pretty good deal. These are the original 323s. These are the 410s. As you can probably tell, as your gear ratio goes up numerically, your pinion gear gets a smaller diameter. You can see this one's a lot wider. This gets smaller, and this one gets thicker. If you look, this one's a lot thicker because it has to move closer to the center to touch the smaller pinion gear. So I'm gonna start out with I'm gonna reuse. This was the shim that was on the original gear. I'm gonna reuse that. That usually gets you pretty close. I'm hoping that works. If not, I'll take it back apart and change it. I'm gonna go ahead and press on the old bearing, and then we'll get this installed. So this pinion gear has it's got two opposing bearings. It's got one that goes here. You have your crush washer that goes on. There's another bearing that faces the other way. That's actually still in the case behind the pinions here. You can see it sitting there. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna leave the crush sleeve off. It takes quite a bit of force to crush these, and it's kind of a pain in the butt, and I'm not sure if I have the right shim in here yet. So I want to save this for when I know that it's set up properly. I'm just gonna slide this in here. I'm gonna tighten this nut until I get the right preload. You know, it's gonna be really easy to do when you're not crushing anything, and it should end up sitting in the same spot as it would if it had that in there. So there's different ways you can do this. Some guys have like a depth checker and all this stuff. I just kind of do trial and error. If you put this in here with the shims that you think might work, and you run a pattern on it, then the pattern's going to tell you what you need to do. So I'm just going to throw this in here and set it up to where I think it looks good and see what it looks like, and then we'll make adjustments based off of that. And then once I'm happy with the way it looks, I'll go ahead and put this back in and tighten everything up, and it should be good. So I'm gonna go ahead and get this thrown in there. All right, so I got this cleaned out. We're gonna go ahead and put our new pinion in. This bearing looks pretty good. I'm gonna reuse it. But most of the time, if you're putting different pinion gears in, if you reuse your shim for your bearing, most of the times that's going to end up having your pinion gear at the proper depth. I think one time I put 456s in a car, and I think I had to maybe reshim that pinion. But most of the time, your stock one is going to end up just fine. That makes it real easy, because then all you have to do is you put your ring gear in, and if you shim it too far away, there's going to be too much backlash in the gears. If you put it too close, there's going to be too little. We got this in here. I gotta go put the yoke back on, the nut, and then we're gonna have to check. We gotta tighten the nut and check. You gotta tighten the nut a certain amount to get your bearing preload, and we'll hop on this other side. I'll show you what I mean. All right, so just gotta slide the yoke on. Try to slide it on without knocking the pinion back in. And then we've got a washer and a nut. So as you can tell, it's pretty sloppy because the nut's not tight. So to start out with, I'm just going to tighten this nut until the play is gone. There we go. So I think all the play is gone. And it has a little bit of drag to it, which is what you want. You got to have some drag. And you have to measure the correct amount of drag. Just here, it's still loose, but it's got to be getting close. turn my gun down some so I don't go too far. I can still feel some play in there. I think that got rid of it. Yeah, so now there's no play. So now we'll go ahead and you gotta measure the it's gonna take some force. Like I'm pushing on it, well, it don't take much, but I'm pushing on a little bit and then it turns. So there's some force that it can withstand before it turns. And ideally you would have a torque wrench that measures inch pounds, and it would be like a dial, and you can see like how much pressure you're putting on. I don't have the dial one, but I have one that clicks, so I'm just gonna have to use that. So let me go grab that and we'll make sure we got this thing where it's supposed to be. So like I said, I wish I had the dial con. It'd be a little nicer. I don't know what this is, but I have it set to 10 inch pounds and it's not clicking over. So I have less than 10 inch pounds. It needs to be between 10 and 15 for this used bearing. My big impact is pretty powerful, and I don't want to go too far with this nut. Go ahead and grab my smaller one here, and we'll see if that one will spin it. It's not even turned up all the way, and it's a small one, so I don't want to spin this nut very much, just a little bit at a time. There we go, it's barely turning it, which is what I want. So now I'll slide this back off. See if I can hit 10 inch pounds now. Okay, I'm gonna show you guys this. So if you watch right here, it's gonna pivot. It's gonna pivot on that little thing. See that there? So it actually turns the handle before it spins anything, because it's at least 10 inch pounds. Now what I'm gonna do is crank this thing up to 15. There's 15 now. It should be between 10 and 15. So it spun with, or it was over 10. Now let's see here. See, it's spinning it. So it's over 10 and under 15. That feels pretty good. So we'll go with that. Nice and solid. All right. So we'll go ahead and put this ring gear on. Remember, the threads are reversed. So you basically got two adjustments you can make. You got a shim behind your bearing on your pinion gear you can change, and you got shims that go on either end of your bearings here. So the pinion gear moves the pinion in and out, and the shims on this can move this side to side. So you got your race that slides on here, and then you set your shim on top of that. There's the shim there. I gotta wipe it off first. But you put that on there. I'm gonna start out with all the stock stuff, stock shims. I got stock shim on the Pinion. I'm gonna put stock shims on this and just kind of see what it looks like. So I got this set up in here. You always want to go ahead and put your caps on and torque everything down before you make any kind of measurements or check anything. So I got that side on, put this other one on, and see what it looks like. Okay, everything's all bolted up. I think it's a little tight probably, but we'll go ahead and throw some paint on it and we'll see what the pattern looks like. So I got my little brush here and some paint. I'm just gonna squirt a little bit of stuff on here. You want to get both sides so you can check the pattern. Now that's pretty heavy, so I'm probably gonna go back and steal some of that for the other side. You don't want to do the whole thing, just do like a little section, just like a few teeth. All the teeth should kind of be the same. So that seems pretty good right there. Alright, I'm gonna go ahead and run this through. I'm just gonna spin my pinion gear back here, spin it like this. You'll see it kind of go in here, and then we'll see what the pattern looks like. Kind of run it through a couple times. Okay, so here's my pattern. It looks pretty centered, so that means my ring gear is about where the distance between the ring gear and the pinion is about right, but it looks a little high on the tooth. It should be lower, so that tells me that we need to change the pinion shim on it. So I found this little thing on Google, this picture. So our pattern is up here high, just like this picture here. The pinion is too far from ring. Move pinion towards ring. So we got to put a bigger shim in it. So I think the factory one was like 30 thousandths. So we might try like 35 or something and see what that looks like. So the factory shim that I had in was a 31 thousandths. I put in a 36 thousandths. You can tell it looks a lot better. It's way more towards the center, but the bottom of the tooth is still kind of high. You can almost see it better right here. You can see right here where the pinion gear hit. It's still, there's a lot of tooth below that, and it should be more centered. So I headed the right direction, but not quite far enough. Probably gonna try like a 40, something around like a 40 thousandths. And then that should get us hopefully where we need to be. So I went ahead and I put a 40 thousandths shim in instead of the 36. That's what my pattern looks like now. So if you look, it looks like the pattern's wearing pretty even side to side. It's came down. It used to be up on the top edge, now it's kind of in the center. I think this looks pretty good. I'm gonna go ahead and run this. I'm sorry I didn't show more of like replacing shims and stuff. We got a storm rolling in. I'm trying to get this buttoned up, so I'm gonna go ahead and clean off this paint and get the cover back on, put the oil back in it. But yeah, this is pretty much done, and it should make a big difference on the car. So thanks for watching, and I'll catch you guys next time.